It's going back the other way.
Put on a suit. Drink water. Don't drink and drive.
Game over.
Take it light. Safe.
Now you're more fluent.
He's got three.
Up, Bears.
So this is really good right here. Absolutely. Let's do it.
Yo, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls all around the world? How y'all doing tonight? We are back in effect. And we had a retirement, which I think is kind of cool that a dude steps off like Derrick Rose did. I think that's actually kind of cool. That's what I want to discuss tonight, right? I want to talk about what it takes. And is Derrick Rose, I'd like to talk a little bit about Derrick Rose as the player he is. I'd like to talk a little bit about Derrick Rose, the career that he had, and who exactly is Derrick Rose? Like what exactly did Derrick Rose do for the NBA world? I'm not one of these people. I still do not subscribe to that. Derrick Rose, prime Derrick Rose. I don't think we saw a prime Derrick Rose. I thought we saw a damn good Derrick Rose. I don't think we saw the best of Derrick. I don't think we saw Derrick Rose in his prime. Remember, when he won that league MVP, he was only in year 3. He only played 1 year college. 22 years old, I don't think he had reached his prime yet. But let's rewind a little bit and talk about Derrick Rose as a high school player. Derrick Rose wasn't a big-time scorer in college. He was, however, one of the best finishers. Superior athlete. In addition to being a superior athlete, great point guard. He had that kind of game that you gravitated toward. And this is at an early age. He had that kind of game that you just gravitated toward. And he was must-see TV. He wasn't a big-time scorer in college, neither. I think he averaged 15 a game at Memphis that 1 year. But if we're going off of if we're going off that one season, if he plays multiple years at Memphis, I mean, I could very well see Derrick Rose. If he plays 2-3 years at Memphis, he would have been a 1,500-point scorer. And I don't think that's a question. He could have very well been the best player that they've ever had, including Penny Hardaway, right? Including Penny Hardaway, he could have been the best player that they ever had. But he only played 1 year there. And in the 1 year that he played there, he averaged about 15 a game. Great finisher, great around the basket. Good distributor, ridiculous athlete. Took them to the national championship. I actually thought that they were going to win it, if I'm being honest with you. I did. I thought that they were going to win it, and I was surprised that they didn't. I mean, Mario Chalmers came up with that big three. But then he moves on to the NBA and makes an instant impact. Just from an athletic standpoint, he excelled. The league was getting faster at that time. The league was shifting from the big man era. Even though it was still in the big man era, it was shifting more. What's up, Brian? How you doing, brother? What's up, Kenny? How you doing, brother? The league was shifting more toward the guard era and pushing the game further away from the basket. This is during a time when, the 8 seconds or less, 7 seconds or less, the 8 seconds or less, I'm sorry, 7 seconds or less offense was what it was. And it was just it was just a pretty big deal that it was moving toward that way. And Derrick Rose, with his athleticism, made an immediate impact. His skill set translated because, again, the game was opening up. The game was more wide open. And that was conducive conducive to Derrick Rose's game. Very much so. He was already a great finisher. He was already great in transition. The game was starting to speed up because in the 2000s, again, it was the big man era, but it was transition, and Phoenix kind of introduced us to that. The game was starting to speed up. The game was starting to get faster. In the process of the game getting faster, that just looked like that was tailor-made for a guy like Derrick Rose. That was tailor-made for his game. So with that being tailor-made for his game, he excelled. Now, a quick side note, Dwayne Wade said Bob McAdoo told him, if you keep playing this way, you're not going to last long. And this was in year 3. Excuse me. If you keep playing this way, you're not going to last long. Him getting slammed to the floor, him falling a lot, you're not going to hold up very long if you keep playing this way. So Wade had to change his game. Wade had to put other things in his game in order for him to last a little longer. Well, Derrick Rose, he had a funny style athletically about him. You know, as high as he jumped, as fast as he was, his landing was unorthodox, right? And his landing was unorthodox. With his landing being unorthodox, his balance is off. With his balance being off, you're more prone to have leg injuries. Like, you're more prone to have leg injuries when your balance is off. That's what happened to Tracy McGrady. His body was off balance. And people say that, you know, Tibbs ran him in the ground. He played, I think he played 38 minutes, 37 minutes that year in 2011. In 2011, 2012, I think Luol Deng led the league in minutes. I never heard guys, when I was growing up, complain about minutes. Michael Finley led the league in minutes. Allen Iverson led the league in minutes, right? He led the league in minutes. So I never heard guys complaining about minutes. So with that being said, him playing as much as he was playing, his body being imbalanced, plus he had never had any major injuries. Now, you guys have to recognize as an athlete, there is a thin line between elite. Like there isn't much separation between elite and average. There isn't. The only separation between the two is upstairs. A prime example I'll give you is Jimmy Butler. If you watch Jimmy Butler doesn't blow me away with anything he does in terms of his skill set. He is not super nice with the pill. Like, he ain't skipping in the lane, throwing it over the top of you. He ain't doing none of that stuff. But when Jimmy Butler walks onto that floor, he is convinced it's not one of you dudes out here that's better than me at what I do. None of you dudes. That's confidence. You start chipping away at that confidence, you start chipping away at the player. Now, your confidence can be a number of different things. Your confidence can be your game. Your confidence can be your athleticism. Derrick Rose, that was his superpower, his athleticism. He tears his knee up. Can I get back to that? Can I run as fast as I used to? Can I jump as high as I used to? I've always subscribed to the idea, if you think you're going to get hurt, you're going to get hurt. That's just the way it is. And it's 100% in your head once you do get hurt. If you think you're going to get hurt, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get hurt. And a guy like Derrick Rose, who had gotten hurt, never had any major injuries like that, now that starts to chip away. Can I get back to who I was? Because I've seen guys, I've seen guys who've torn up their knees. I've seen guys who've had Achilles injuries and were able to bounce back. I mean, Derrick Rose tore up his knee in 2012. He was 23 years old. He played 10 more years after that, 10, 11 more years after that, 12 more years after that. Is his body just that way where he was prone to injury? Well, he wasn't prone to injury early, right? He wasn't prone to injury early. So now all of a sudden he tears up his knee. Can I get back to can I get back to what I used to be? I don't know if I can do it. If I can't do it, I'm not going to be what I was. And now what happens is as I start to question, can I even play anymore? Can I even play at this level? Because a guy like James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kyrie Irving, Steph Curry, Chris Paul, Rondo, John Wall. These are the point guards. These are the guards that are running around during the time when Derrick Rose is becoming Derrick Rose. I got to have a certain mentality to play at that level against those guys. You know, guys like Dragic, who ended up making an all-pro team, who Damian Lillard said cleaned his clock. He couldn't do anything with him. I got to have a certain, the mentality that I have to play against those guys mentally with an injury like this. Do I have it? Do I still have it? That starts to chip away at a guy's confidence. And Derrick Rose, I don't think that mentally he was there because he had never had a major injury like that. I think that mentally that affected his game. And I think it affected his game to the point where he was never able to get back to who he was. Because I've seen guys, and I know that some of you guys are going to tell me, well, that's a completely different situation. When you have a major injury, immediately as a ball player, in your mind, your invincibility is questioned. Because up until that point, you've never been hurt. It's like Superman. I ain't never been shot before. Oh shit, I've been shot. I've never been shot. I can get injured. What now happens? I don't want to get shot again. What do I do to avoid this? Right? What do I do to avoid this? Is this upstairs? Can I avoid this by just getting stronger and being mentally tough to go, yo, I'm not getting hurt again. I'm not getting hurt again. Was it Derrick Rose's body that caused him? Was it Derrick Rose's body that just failed him? Was it a combination of the two? I'm thinking it was a combination of the two, and I'm thinking I think it was the result of him mentally being broken. Can I get back to what I used to be? It's like a boxer. When you finally get punched and you finally get your nose busted, you finally get your jaw broken. Oh shit. You know, I can't box like I used to. Do I still have it? So when Derrick Rose ends up getting hurt, can he get back to what he used to be? Well, it takes a lot of mental fortitude to do that. Now, I had a conversation earlier. Well, you got to be mentally tough. You have to be mentally tough to come out of the situation that Derrick Rose came out of. Well, he did do that. 100% he did. But he had all his superpowers when he came out of that situation. It wasn't like he just came out of that situation. It wasn't like that. He had all of his superpowers when he was able to rise above that situation that he was in growing up. Yeah, he still had all of his superpowers. Now, when my superpowers get zapped, not all of them, but like Superman, I get shot. That situation that he was in growing up, zap some of his superpowers and see if he can still make it out of there like that? Can he still do it? Because the question that needs to be answered is how tough are you mentally? There's plenty of athletes who quit after getting injured because I don't know if I can do it anymore. I don't know. I don't want to go through what the rehab is to try to get back to what I was. I don't want to go through that and risk possibly getting injured again. I don't want to do that. So they bow out. They 100% bow out. So I say that to say, with him playing 10, 11, 12 more years after he tore up his knee, I think that mentally, I don't think he was ever able to get back to who he was. And I think that it affected him physically. Because I am of the belief that if you think you can manifest things in your mind. And if you think you're going to get hurt, it's going to happen. 100% it's going to happen. If I think that I'm going to hurt myself, more times than not, I'm going to hurt myself. But if I convince myself I ain't getting hurt again, I'm not getting hurt again. No, I'm too strong in the mind. I'm not getting hurt again. That could happen. But I think that Derrick Rose, I think that with him getting his superpower zapped, because it was amazing to me. If I'm being honest with you, it was amazing to me to watch him break that. It was like watching a superhero lose his powers right in front of you. It was incredible. And incredible in a bad way. It wasn't like, wow, it was more like it was horrific to watch this. To watch him tear up his meniscus again. When he played with the Knicks, break his hand after averaging 18, 19 a game. And having a great season, looking like he was getting back into form. He looked like he was becoming, the guy that it reminds me of Bo Jackson. When Bo Jackson had that hip injury, that stripped his invincibility. Because I would see flashes of Bo Jackson, but he could never get back to what he was. He could never do it like he did. And a lot of that was physical because, he had an artificial hip. But mentally, man, can I do what I used to be able to do? Can I run like I used to be able to run? And when you start chipping at a player's confidence, you start chipping at who they are. And once you start doing that, you can screw them all the way up. But I say that to say Derrick Rose was still awesome. He won the Rookie of the Year. He was the youngest league MVP. I don't buy into the logic that the league MVP that he won, it wasn't that good. I know I can't speak for everybody. I can't. I can speak for me, though, and I did not have the Chicago Bulls at the top of the Eastern Conference that year. I did not. I'll be lying to you if I said in October of 2010, I got the Chicago Bulls having the best record in the East. No, I didn't. I did not. No, I did not. Not after seeing the Celtics just in the NBA Finals. Not after seeing James go to the Miami Heat. Not after seeing the season that Dwight Howard had. I did not have the Chicago Bulls at the top of the East. No, I didn't. And for him to do what he did with that crew, mind you, that crew that he was on, that was a damn good team. I don't subscribe to the logic that, it was just Derrick Rose and he dragged that unit, because no, he didn't. He did not drag that unit. That was a damn good team he was on with Boozer, with Lou Ordang, with Joakim Noah. That was a damn good team he was on. Damn good. And had just gotten Jimmy Butler the next year. The year he tore up his knee, that was Bucket's rook season. Made the All-Star team that year. That was a damn good team that they were building. And then in 2010, 2011, the year he won Rookie of the Year, he did some pretty phenomenal things considering where everybody had the Chicago Bulls projected. His ability to get downhill, get to the rim, how athletic he was, his ability to get off the ground and finish at the rim, it was fantastic. I don't think that it was good. It was fantastic. He was fantastic. And with that being said, once he got injured, it slowed him down. But up until that point, it really wasn't a bunch of guys that I could say were better than Derrick Rose. It wasn't, if there weren't many guys that I could say, and he looked like on the trajectory that he was on, he looked to me, Curry, Irv, Dame, Russ, Harden, Paul, John Wall, Rondo. He looked to me, he looked to me like he was on that trajectory. Now, if I'm being honest, right? If I'm being honest with you, I can tell you, I saw when I saw him and Russell Westbrook lined up with each other. This was during the FIBA World Championships. I said to myself, that dude is better than that dude. When I saw Russ and I saw Derrick Rose, I said, that dude right there is better than that dude. Just from the eye test alone. Just watching him, that dude right there is better than that dude. Yes, he is. And I think Russ, even if Derrick Rose didn't get injured, even if Derrick Rose didn't get injured, I still think Russ was better than him. So when I'm watching these guys in 2011 in the FIBA World Championships, I'm looking at Derrick Rose and I'm looking at Russell Westbrook and I'm going, that dude is better than that dude. He a better athlete. He a better finisher. He better than him. That's what I'm looking at when I see these two guys. Now, Derrick Rose being the player that he is Derrick Rose ending up being the player that Derrick Rose was? If like stuff like stuff like this. Russell Westbrook don't have the body control like Derrick Rose. That's what got Derrick Rose injured. That's why Derrick Rose broke down, because he didn't know how to control his body. He was always flailing all over the place. That's what ultimately broke him. But with that being said, in the time that I saw Derrick Rose, is Derrick Rose a Hall of Famer? I would be surprised if he didn't make the Hall of Fame. He'd be the only player that played in the national championship and won the league MVP that did not make it to the Hall of Fame. He'd be the only player to do that. There wouldn't be another player that could say that they played in the national championship and was the league MVP and they not in the Hall of Fame. He'd be the only one. And he played, like I said, when he tore his knee up in 2012, he played 10 more years after that. It wasn't like he tore his knee up and he never played again. He played 10 more years after that. He was one of the better guard finishers in the game. He was one of the better downhill players in the game. I recognize who Derrick Rose was. And this is why I talk a lot about, being good isn't good enough. It's not. You need some things to go your way. I bring up the Eastern Conference, right? I bring up the Eastern Conference and I bring up the road to the NBA championship and the luck that a guy like James had. Well, Derrick Rose gets injured. Think about that unit. Now, don't get me wrong. The Heat handled them in 2011 in 5 games. But think about that unit and what they were turning into. Derrick Rose, 23 years old. Jimmy Butler is a rook. Prime Luol Deng. prime Carlos Boozer. Joakim Noah is 25. This unit is turning into something. Take Derrick Rose off that unit. That makes my life a lot less difficult. A lot less difficult. Paul George breaks his leg. Paul George breaks his leg. Danny Granger, his knees give out on him. That makes my life a lot less difficult. A lot less difficult. Because now what happens is, right, what happens is what now happens is the crew that I'm on, we don't have to deal with these guys anymore. So in addition to Dwayne Wade being on the crew, me coming to the Miami Heat, Derrick Rose going down, Paul going down, that makes my life a lot less difficult. But I digress. I don't want to make Derrick. I don't want to make Derrick Rose out to be some. Excuse me. I don't want to make Derrick Rose out to be some weak-minded dude, because I don't think he was weak-minded. You can be mentally tough, but not strong enough to overcome this and get back to what you were. I think his injuries, I think mentally they affected him to the point where I don't think he was ever able to get back to who he was, because I don't think he could do it. Marcus, stop telling me that the mental didn't affect him. Stop it. You don't know what you're talking about. Please shut up and listen. You don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea what athletes go through and what it is mentally when you have a debilitating injury. So stop talking to me. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't. I know what broken bones look like. I know what torn ligaments look like. I've seen guys break bones, and I've seen guys have their confidence shaken. You don't know what you're talking about. So stop talking and listen. You're talking to an athlete who knows what he's talking about. Because I've had broken bones. And I've seen guys who've had broken bones and torn ligaments and how it's affected them mentally. You don't know what you're talking about. It's not just a physical thing. So pay attention and listen. Now, like I was saying, when Derrick Rose was in the league and he was at the height of it, and I'm thinking about the point guards during that time, right? This is what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the point guards. So from 2008 when he showed up until 2011, who are the better point guards in the game at that time? Paul, Darren Williams, Rose, Rondo. Who are some of the better point guards? Steve Nash was when Derrick Rose showed up in 2008. Steve Nash was on the other side of it. He was starting to slow down. He was still awesome. He had just come off that when Rose showed up in 2008. When Rose showed up in 2008, he had just come off of. I thought you could make the argument that Steve Nash could have won the league MVP in 07. You can definitely make that argument. But these guys, like I said, Rondo, Chris Paul, Darren Williams, Tony Parker, Steve Francis, Chauncey Billups was still awesome at that time. Jason Kidd. Derrick Rose shows up in 2008, right? Derrick Rose shows up in 2008, and it's not long before he's right in the middle of that. It's not long. And on top of that, some of these guys start to fall by the wayside, like Steve Nash, like Steve Francis, like Darren Williams. These guys start to go the other way, which now makes Derrick Rose even more viable. And because it's turning into more of an athletic league, this is perfect for who Derrick Rose is, because he was a superior athlete. Derrick Rose wasn't a good athlete. He was a superior athlete, right? He was fantastic as an athlete. And this was the game, the way it was going, it was tailor-made for his game. Tailor-made for his game. And I had no choice but to recognize that, yo, this kid is something serious, man. This kid is something serious, and he looks like he's going to be around. I wasn't one of these people. I was not one of these people who looked at Derrick Rose like, I don't know if he's going to last. No. Because I felt like that's the way the game was going anyway. You know, Curry showed up in 2009. Russell Westbrook showed up. James Harden showed up. So I think Irv showed up in 11. I had already looked at who Derrick Rose was at that point. But if I'm asking myself, what kind of player could he have been? He definitely could have been a much better player. Much better. Much better player than what he was. Now, I'm not one of these people that, you know, preys on guys being weak-minded. Because I don't think Derrick Rose was, I don't think Derrick Rose was weak-minded. I just think that I don't think he was mentally tough enough to overcome that. I think once that happened, I think it affected him mentally because he was so reliant on who he was as an athlete. And when I can't run as fast, when I can't jump as high, or maybe I can, I'm not sure that I can do it. And that's where the mental aspect comes in. And I think that's what affected his game more than anything. But watching Derrick Rose, I was pretty confident that Rose, Paul, like this what the point guard about to look like. This is what the point guard is about to look like. This is the future of the league right here. Very much like, if I'm being honest with you, very much like when Jordan showed up. That's what the two guard is about to look like. As good as Joe Dumars is, as good as Byron Scott is, as good as Alvin Robinson is, that's the two guard. He's got to be 6'6". He's got to be an exceptional athlete. In the process of being an exceptional athlete, he's got to be able to knock down mid-range shots. He's got to be great around the rim. He can't just come off screens and make shots. He's got to be a damn good one-on-one player. Damn good. So I felt like that's which way. I felt like that's the way it was going with Derrick Rose. Like that's the future. That's what the point guard is about to look like. Kind of like what's going on today with Wemby and Chet. Like that's what the NBA is about to look like. That's what I'm thinking. And B-More asked me the question. Was his prime good enough for the Hall, Chill? Well, here's the thing, B-More. I don't think we saw Derrick Rose prime. I don't think we saw Derrick Rose's prime. I don't think we saw prime Derrick Rose. I think we got a glimpse of what it could look like. But I don't think we saw prime Derrick Rose. I think we saw a glimpse of this is what it could be. But I don't think we saw prime Derrick Rose. Just like we never saw peak Derrick Rose. He was 22 years old. He was 23 when he tore his knee up, and he never recovered from that, ever. Never recovered from that. And because of that, that's what it became. So I want to hear from you guys, though. Yep, I do. I want to hear from you guys. And is Derrick Rose a what if, or was he just never able to recover from those injuries because he had a mental block? What up?
What up, Chill? What up? Yeah, so in regards to we didn't see prime Derrick Rose, I disagree with that. I think that was his prime. And the Westbrook conversation is interesting.
Wait. Rewind. When you say that was his prime, what was his prime? Those 3 years? That's prime Derrick Rose?
Yeah, that MVP year, that was his prime to me. That was his prime to me. And we've had disagreements over this before because I don't think players just get better every year. Like me and you got into it one time when we was arguing about 2021 Tatum versus this year Tatum, and I thought that Tatum was better. I don't think players just get better every year.
I don't think they do. Well, wait a minute. Okay, let's get to the bottom of something really quickly. So I think players get better. I don't think they get better every year, like year 9, year 10. No, I think that you get better seasons and guys' games change and you maybe get a better version of them. But I feel like by year 5, this is probably who this guy is. I'm convinced of that. Jason Tatum, you and I was discussing this. Jason Tatum in 2021, that was year 4. Jason Tatum in 2024. Just Jason Tatum is not the same as that Jason Tatum. He's a much better passer. He's smarter. He's a better playmaker. If you go back and look at the dude who they lost to Brooklyn, that team that lost to Brooklyn in the first round, he's a much different player than that dude is today. Now, as far as Derrick Rose's prime, do you think that? Because I need to understand where you're coming from when you tell me that was his prime. Okay, so
because
we're in year
that year they was the number 1 seed, which was crazy to win the number 1 seed in a conference that had LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was the MVP that year.
Yeah.
And then even with Westbrook, I think that year the younger Westbrook with KD, I think he was a better player than MVP Westbrook. And so when I'm comparing Westbrook and D Rose, I mean I'm gonna give the edge to Westbrook because I got to see him play with, like, I guess, other great players. But if I'm picking a player to carry my team, I'd rather have Rose than Westbrook because I think Rose is able to carry a team better than what Westbrook could. But if I'm wanting to win a championship,
has Derrick Rose, because you said Rose was able to carry a team. Well, he didn't carry that Bulls team. Let's kill that right now. No, he didn't. That was a damn good Bulls team.
Yeah, it was a great team, but they didn't have. He was clearly the number 1.
I can say the same thing about Russ when he won the league MVP in 2017.
Right. So that's why
that wasn't a good team.
Right. But I'm taking Rose carrying the team over Westbrook because the MVP Russ, I don't even think he should have won MVP that year because he was like a 6 seed, and I don't like lower seeds like that winning MVP. Right. And I'm really big on winning too. Mm-hmm. So I feel like you can win more with Rose carrying the team than Westbrook. And I think we've seen that.
Well, no, we haven't seen that. That's terrible logic right there, Classic. And the reason why is because the crew that he was on, the crew that Derrick Rose was on, as opposed to the crew that Russell Westbrook was on, are 2 different crews. He had a Rook Sabonis, he had Steve Adams, he had Oladipo. These are the guys that he's running around with. Meanwhile, Derrick Rose has a much better supporting cast, and they were much better defensively as a unit. Not only that team that Russell Westbrook had, they weren't even projected to make the playoffs after they lost KD. That team was supposed to be at the bottom of the Western Conference. They were supposed to be a lottery team. Russ dragged that unit in a nightmare Western Conference to a 6 seed. Should he have won league MVP? I think that they screwed it up off the narrative that they created. On top of the narrative that they created, the fact that they gave it to him off the strength that he won, or he was the triple-double king, because that means that now I got to keep doing it because he did it 3 more times. The point is he did it with lesser talent in a tougher conference as opposed to Derrick Rose on a better team. So how can you tell me that Derrick Rose can carry a team better than Russell Westbrook? We've never seen Derrick Rose in that kind of situation that Russell Westbrook was in.
Okay, so what about the year Westbrook had Paul George and Melo, and they still didn't make it past the first round? Right. And I think they were the 3 seed that year. That was a great team. And he still wasn't able to get the 1 seed, and he still wasn't able to get past the first round. So I think we can compare those 2 in regards to carrying the team.
No, we can't. And the reason why we can't is because the unit that Derrick Rose was on, those guys grew up together. Carlos Boozer was already on that crew.
So you're saying that Bulls team with Rose is that much better than the Paul George OKC team?
That team that with Paul George, they threw them together. Paul George had just got on the crew. Carmelo Anthony had just gotten on the crew. You can't just throw talent together and expect it to work. We've seen super teams fail way more than we've seen them succeed. If you look at that Chicago Bulls team, that team was built for Derrick Rose. Carlos Boozer was already on the crew. Not only was Carlos Boozer already on the crew, Deng was already on the crew. Joakim Noah was already on the crew. So these teams that Derrick Rose grew up with, That was a much better cohesive unit as opposed to I'm going to throw Paul George on the crew. I'm going to throw Carmelo Anthony on the crew, and just it's going to work. You think that Derrick Rose would have just worked that out with those dudes, throwing those dudes on the crew?
But chill, in that era, teams that you were just putting together, the real good ones would succeed. So for OKC not to make it past the first round was a big failure. The first year that the Celtics got together with KG, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, they won a championship. The first year that Dwayne Wade, LeBron, and Chris Bosh got together, they actually went to the finals. So I don't think you can just say because they put them together, that wasn't a good reason. And then for them not to make it past the first round, that's terrible.
Okay,
so I think that's enough proof to show that
no, it's
if
not.
you put Derrick Rose in that situation, I know they get past the first round.
No, it's not.
I know they get past the first round.
Here's why it's not. The two examples that you gave me, I could give you two more examples that it didn't work. Okay, how about the Lakers in 2010 with Steve Nash and Dwight Howard? That was a disaster. How about the Brooklyn Nets? That was a disaster.
I think Steve Nash was done. I don't think Dwight Howard was the same either.
Putting super teams together, that doesn't necessarily make for automatic success. And with Derrick Rose, when Derrick Rose gets on the crew with Carlos Boozer, I think Carlos Boozer was in Utah. I think I got that wrong. But they grew up together. He's on the crew for 3 years when they make it to the Eastern Finals. So it's not like he just got on the crew in 2010, 2011. So
yeah, but that's still inexcusable for Westbrook not to make it past the first round, except for that one time with Harden after KD left. I don't think if Derrick Rose wouldn't have had those injuries, chill, I know he's getting past the first round because I've seen him do it without a player like KD. But where I give Westbrook the nod is that if I am trying to win a championship and I do need somebody as like a number 2 or like a 1B, I think Westbrook can play that role better. But if I need a 1A, I'm taking Rose every time.
I'm not. I think we'll respectfully agree to disagree on that. So,
all right, man. Well, you have a good one.
Yep. What up?
What up, Joe? You hear me?
What's going on?
What's up? Yeah, D Rose. The only way I can describe D Rose is D Rose had a Bugatti engine in a VW Polo. That was what D Rose's career was. His engine was way too big for his body, and the way he played, it just messed up his career. And when people say prime D Rose, I think obviously outside of his absolute prime, and I don't think he ever really had one. I think when you look at players, I think all players have a timeline, and I think Derrick Rose's one was really, really short. I think most people peak in the kind of middle of maybe the early 20s or the early 20s, late 20s, early 30s. Most of the players peak. Some players peak way early and they have a decline. But I think Derrick Rose's issue was his body. Like he just never learned how to use his body correctly in games. Like he could jump. I mean, he was 6'1", and I think he had like a 39, 40-inch vertical. So he's coming down with force, but he never knew how to land properly. And you would see videos when you actually look back on retrospectively on Derrick Rose jumping, and you're seeing him come flat-footed. That's all going through his knees. But when you said about his mental, I think I disagree with that. I don't think it was mental. I think that was all physical, because when you tear your ACL, and then not only do you tear your ACL, you come back the next year and you tear your meniscus. Somebody that gets hurt mentally to me is Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis never has an injury where I'm just concerned he's going to be out all season. Anthony Davis is a bit physically soft, whereas like you hit him, he's kind of like he's holding his hip, like he's clutching, like he's hurt, like he's just kind of just physically just not built that tough. Whereas I think Derrick Rose actually was built very physically tough, because to come back and play for another 10 years after these are not light injuries. This is an ACL, a meniscus, and I think he comes back and he gets a foot injury, gets another knee injury, and then afterwards he just keeps getting more and more injuries. So all of them were basically his lower extremities. I think that was
where do you think that came from, though, Amari? Because the question, the reason why I'm asking this question is because if I look at what Derrick Rose was, he had never gotten hurt to that extreme, never. So because I've never gotten hurt to that extreme, when I get hurt like that as an athlete, my superpowers are now in question. Am I going to be able to run as fast? I'm not just breaking down physically. Like I've seen guys break down physically. Like I saw Bryant when he tore his Achilles. Then after the Achilles, he cracked his knee. After he cracked his knee, the shoulder went. That's because he was old.
Yeah,
it wasn't it wasn't because physically, it wasn't just in fact, that's exactly what it was. It was physically because he was old. It wasn't because he was in like year 3 and like all of a sudden now everything goes. No, he was old. Derrick Rose, who had never had any kind of injuries like this previous to him doing that, never had any kind of injuries like this. So this clearly shook him up.
It shook him up to a certain degree, but I don't think it shook him up in terms of the mental. I think that shook him up in terms of his body. I think it was probably on very rickety foundations anyway, his body. And he just didn't know, because it just took one crack to his knee and everything went. Like it wasn't like so I'm saying to you, I understand what you're saying about Kobe with his Achilles, but these injuries that they're getting, these are not just, like a sprained ankle. Like this is his knee, and then your meniscus in the other knee. Like these are debilitating injuries. Like you can't mentally, even if you try to mentally recover from this, you can't even look at somebody like Lonzo Ball. Like I don't know if you saw the video a couple months ago when Stephen A. Smith was talking about like he can't stand, and then he's like, "I'm coming back, man," and then he gets off the chair off one leg, and it's a bit like, this is like that. You can't mentally recover from just not being able to walk. Like Derrick Rose and he tried. You could see he was trying to play the same way again. It's just that he just couldn't do it. And to be fair, and I have to say this: have you seen Tibbs? We know what Tibbs does to players. That team.
I think that year in 2012, if I'm not mistaken, I think Luol Deng. I think he led the league in minutes that year.
Luol Deng, Derrick Rose had led the league in minutes. Derrick Rose was playing 40 minutes a game.
I think he was playing something like I think that the year that Derrick Rose tore his knee up, and you guys can fact check me, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that year that Derrick Rose tore his knee up, I think Luol Deng led the league in minutes, and I think Derrick Rose was playing something like 37, 38 minutes a game, something crazy like that.
Exactly that now minutes.
But my question is I've never heard guys complain about playing too much, Amari. I've never heard that before. That's never happened in my lifetime, ever.
I don't think it's an issue about them playing too much. I just think it's an issue of with a coach, you're supposed to manage me. So if you're just letting me play, I remember Derrick Rose didn't have a game where it was an easy game. Derrick Rose didn't have an easy kind of playing style where he was getting to the rim consistently. And he was fairly efficient for what he was doing. Getting to the rim consistently, it was fast paced on the remember, because that team also didn't have much of an offense. So you're now relying on a guy who is super athletic to get down to the rim as much as he can in a team that doesn't have a very good half-court offense, which is the reason why the Heat was able to close down on them so easily. It was too much pressure. And then not only that, you have it like what you have to give somebody like Russ credit for is the fact that Russ was super durable. Like Russ was a super durable player until he got the meniscus tear from Patrick Beverley.
Right.
And I think it's when these point guards get their knees taken out, it messes them up. Whereas if you're a big man, look how many injuries Shaq had to his feet and his lower extremity. He's still able to play well. It's when you're trying to get to the basket and then you're running and then your knees just kind of cave in. So I think Derrick Rose, it was kind of a sad thing where you just saw somebody I've never seen, like a car, like the whole frame just came down, Derrick Rose. So the wheels came off, the seats, the doors came off. He just broke down the highway and he's just on the floor. It was, I think, to me, I think Russ would have edged him out in the long term of his career. I think Russ would have been the better player because Russ was the bigger player. He was as athletic. They kind of did similar. I think D Rose was the smarter player, and you can kind of tell in terms of how.
That breaks my heart too, Amari. For you to say that because it's true. That does break my heart because I saw Russ. I always equated to like if you've ever been around a woman who is fantastic initially, and then you find out, damn, you ain't that smart.
She's crazy, man.
And it really hurts because you really into her. And that's kind of how I felt about Russ when I recognized it was probably around 2015. I'm thinking to myself, I don't think he's that smart. And it's starting to resonate with me like, damn, yo, maybe I was wrong about this guy because I don't think he's that smart.
With Russ, it became to the point where, like I said, 2015, I thought, yeah, this guy ain't that smart. By the time it got to 2018, when I saw those games against the Utah Jazz, I was like, this guy might be borderline stupid.
I just don't think he's that smart.
I just don't think Russ, to me, never got it in the sense of how to actually play in the concept of a team. And the reason why I say this is because look at Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose has not been a star player for nearly a decade. And, it's closer to 20 years that he's not been a star than it is to 10 when he was a star in 2011. So it's been a long time since Derrick Rose has been a star. And look how many teams just want Derrick Rose around. Like, he's never been an issue. I'm not saying Russ has never been an issue, but I think Rose was much more willing to accept his place in the league and was a bit more of a heavy point guard. So you look at his efficiency as a non-starting point guard, it's been pretty good. He's been able to shoot the free well. He's been pretty efficient from the floor. He's been able to pick his spots more. And that's what hurts me about D Rose. I think if that team stayed together in Chicago, they would have snuck the Heat once. 2014, they would have snuck the Heat.
I feel like they were building something there. I do. I feel like they were building something there. Him and Joakim Noah grew up together. Lou Aldeng was already on that crew. I got that wrong with Carlos Boozer. Carlos Boozer had just got on the crew in the year that they went to the East Finals. I thought he was on the crew earlier than that. I do remember him being in Utah when they was in the West Finals. I think it was in 07. No, it was in 08. No, it was in 08 when they in 08 when they in 08 when they lost to the Lakers to go to the NBA championship. And but that crew, they were building something, right? That crew, that I felt like they were building something with that crew. And
because Butler from 2013, isn't it?
Yes. I just think that with what they were building there, if Derrick Rose could have held up, I mean, I think that makes it a lot more difficult for those Miami Heat teams.
Oh, 100%. They would have snuck them 2014.
A lot more difficult for that Indiana team. That Indiana team is not a shoo-in. It's not.
And they wasn't as good defensively as the Chicago Bulls. Like, that was another thing. Where Joakim Noah went. Did he win back-to-back defensive player of the years? Was it only once? 2014, isn't it? So Joakim Noah won those defensive player of the years. They had Jimmy Butler. They had D Rose. They had Kyle Korver on those teams later on. Kyle Korver was on those teams later on. So that was a really good team that they had. So I think it's unfortunate because I think if those teams stayed together, I think they would have been able to get to the finals at least 1 year, and maybe even 2015. To be honest, when that Cleveland because they nearly took that Cleveland Cavaliers team to the limit. So,
well, to your point. I mean, when they went to the East Finals in 2011, and I actually talked to somebody from Chicago, when they went to the East Finals in 2011, Derrick Rose wins the league MVP. Considering what the Bulls had been up until that point, I mean, they had beaten the Miami Heat in 07, knocked off the champs, but they weren't like that. So to see them in 2011 get back to the East Finals, Derrick Rose wins the league MVP. You have to, as a Bulls fan, think, yo, we back.
Yeah, and especially if you look at how they started the 2012 season, they still go 50 and 16 over that lockout season. So I'm assuming that if Derrick Rose is able to play most of that season, they're going to have a historic season getting to that playoff because 50 and 16, I mean, if you're playing, I don't know what the percentage is, but that's probably like a 60-win pace if you're playing an 82-game season.
Right. And so, Derrick Rose, I think he played, 40 games?
40 games.
I think he played 40 of the 66 games. So he's clearly on. He looks like he's clearly on pace to play at least 60 games that year.
Yeah, and he took a little bit of a step. I think he wouldn't have won the MVP that next season because he took a little bit of a step back in production. But I think the injuries was that whatever he was going through at that time. Because again, Derrick Rose played off balance. That was another thing about Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose physically, if you watch Derrick Rose play, and it becomes more glaring when he got a bit after injuries, but he played off balance and he didn't have the body control to kind of just maintain that kind of play style. It it's just so. I don't know if you ever saw a video of Derrick Rose training, and they were showing him doing lunges, and you were just thinking, "Oh man, this is not good." Yeah, yeah.
He didn't look like he was stable at all. I can get with that. So, Mario, it was good to talk to you, brother. Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
All gravy. This is not true. Let's get to the bottom of this right now. This is not true. When they played that Miami Heat team in the East Finals in 2011, they smoked Miami in game 1, and they made the switch. And the switch was putting James on the Derrick Rose. They shut the door on him. They shut the door on him. He shot under 40%. He shot under 40%. I think he shot 20% on the long ball. They shut the door on him. They didn't win another game in that series. So, no, he didn't give that Heat team problems. No, he did not. That is not true. I do everything that you do, except I'm bigger. So, what up?
Oh, hey, Chill Town.
What up?
Well, I just think there are some times in life where, like when a serious injury happens to a basketball player, they just need a break from a game.
I don't know about that. I mean, you can use a break from a game, but not a serious injury. No, I mean, serious injuries take a little bit longer than a game. So, no, that's not true, sir. All right, brother. Good to talk to you.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, what was Derrick Rose ultimately? Like when Derrick Rose goes into the Hall of Fame, what is he going to look like? Because I don't think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. It's going to be hard to keep him out, though. It's going to be hard to keep him out. Right? So with it being hard to keep him out, they're going to eventually have to, they're going to eventually have to put him in. Otherwise, I mean, in a 16-year career, average 17 a game. Excuse me. In a 16-year career, average 17 a game. Made the All-Star team 3 times. Made the All-Pro team once, I think. Made the All-Pro team once. Average 17 a game. And won a league MVP. It was Rookie of the Year. Took my team to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know how many Hall of Famers can say that they did that. Won the league MVP, was the Rookie of the Year, and was in the national championship in college. I don't know how many guys that's not in the Hall of Fame can say that. In fact, there's none. Right? There's none. So I actually want to take it a step further than this. TD12 says, Chill, was he the best player when he won MVP? Let's take it a step further than that, TD. Was he a top 5 player in the league that year he won the league MVP? And before you answer that, I'm going to run down some names for you, and I want you to stop me. Stop me when you like, whoa. So, James, Bryant, Wade, Dirk, Howard. Those are the 5 guys that I'm thinking about off the top of my head. One more time for the people in the cheap seats. James, Wade, KD, Bryant, Howard, Dirk. Where does he fall in the pantheon of those 6 players? In the pantheon of those 6 players, where does he fall? If we're being honest, where does he fall in the pantheon of those 6 players? Because you could be, if we being honest, there could be a conversation about you not being top 5. That could happen. That could very well happen. That could very well happen. I don't think that that's ridiculous to think that. So, and for Marcus to tell me that he was better than Dirk, I just want to be clear that, just so you know, I think Dirk went almost 50, 40, 90 that year. Yeah, when we're talking about regular season, I think Dirk went almost 50, 40, 90 that year. I think he was 23-7. He went almost 50, 40, 90 that year. I'm looking at what Dirk was as a player at that time. One-on-one, he was a much better passer at that point of his career than he had been in the past. He had the best mid-range game in the game at that point. There wasn't a better mid-range shooter in the game than Dirk Nowitzki at that point. That includes KD. KD's mid-range was not KD's mid-range in 2011 was not what it was in 2015 or 2017. Dirk was the best mid-range shooter in the game, plus could shoot the long ball at almost 40%. Ridiculously efficient. So I don't know, man. That I don't know. I'm thinking about those 6 players: James, Bryant, KD, Wade, Dirk, Howard. I'm just thinking about those. And when I think about the pantheon of players, that's what I'm thinking about. So, and I'm not sure that Derrick Rose was a top 5. I can't say that he was definitively a top 5 player that year. I can't say that. No, I can't. So, but what I can say, though, is it's about that time for me. It was good to see you guys. You know where to find me. I am not hard to find. If I'm not here, I'm on the panel from 11 to 2. If I'm not there, I'm on TikTok 9 a.m. every Monday to Friday. If I'm not there on Saturdays, 12 o'clock Eastern, I'm with my man Big Ox. Me and my man Big Ox, we get to it right here on the Players Choice Network, and we're gonna keep this thing going. So it was good to see you guys tonight. I will see you guys soon. Until then, put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey man, call your mother. Let's let me talk to your mother. Call your mother. I'll talk to you guys soon. Until then, take it light. Take it. Absolutely, man. It was good.